Hi, my name is Stephanie, and I am known as watercolor artiste online in social media circles. And I am the artist of midlifeartist.com. And welcome. Welcome to everybody who's joining in now and later. And I appreciate you stopping in to chat with me. And I want to just say I'm very appreciative that you're here. And but yeah, I got a lot of painting done last night, but I'm not done. And so hopefully I can get it finished tonight along with everybody here rooting me on. Hey, Frosty. Hey, Nancy. Thanks for joining. It's good to see you in the chat. And I got YouTube over on the other laptop here in case somebody shows up there. Not likely, but you never know. But anyway, welcome. I am getting ready to finish this painting here. And yes, I know in past live streams I had indicated that I would promise myself that I would finish the other painting first. However, there's been some developments that have kind of steered me in a different direction. But I will be finishing the dancer painting next week on live stream. I'm planning on it so that both of these paintings will be done by next Wednesday. Come heck or high water, as they would say. So, welcome. I wanted to talk about this painting here because it is the second painting in my Admirable Masculinity series that started off with my cowboy painting from a year and a half to 2 years ago. And for the longest time, I couldn't figure out what I wanted to paint next in it. I knew that I'm doing iconographic kind of characterizations of masculine men, obviously the cowboy, and here we are with the fireman. And uh, I named the cowboy because, well, that's just straightforward and easy. And I'm not sure if I should keep with that kind of nomenclature title for the paintings that will be ultimately making up this series or not. And if I did, this would be naturally called The Firefighter. It's not exactly creative. Um, and so I'm contemplating not sticking with any standard nomenclature, that each painting should have its own creative title. And maybe it doesn't have to be overthought. So I don't know if you've got a suggestion for a title. I know I got one over on Truth Social earlier this afternoon. Um, I think I have to relaunch my Rumble because I think it hung up. That happens with the Rumble app, unfortunately. So yeah, I apologize for the interruption. That's what happens when I don't know what I'm doing. There we go. No, 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 no. Okay, there we go. Okay, sorry for that. But in a couple of years ago, I gotta turn down that volume all the way down to nothing. There we go. My little phone has the Rumble chat. My laptop's got YouTube, and here I am. But back when I did the cowboy, I did a video on how it came together, process video. I explained it, and then I talked about how I researched cowboys, the characteristics, the cowboy creed or creeds. There was a couple of them, and those served as great information points to use on my collage papers for that. This isn't a collage. This is oil over acrylic. But I wanted to take a moment to discuss firefighters in the same way that I discussed cowboys in my video for the cowboy. And I wanted to read off what it is about firemen that makes this a perfect icon for a strong male role model. If you're not familiar with what firemen have to go through in order to get certified and become recognized firefighters, they have to be 18, they have to have graduated high school, some basic requirements. They most often shouldn't have criminal records, although I don't think in some states that precludes them, but they would have to show rehabilitation from any infractions against the law, had they have any, and that they're honest about it. But I don't know from state to state how that works. Um, but in any case, there is um, a lot of candidates for firefighting, more than I thought about, or I was kind of surprised at the number. I think it was like, oh shoot, I think I might be messing up my research articles. But in any case, I wanted to read off some of the physical exercises that they have to be able to perform in order to pass and become a firefighter. Um, they have to, be wearing PPE, personal protective equipment, while they are performing firefighter tasks. And that includes wearing the required respirator. They have to be exposed to fumes despite wearing PPE, and they have to simulate mask failure. They also have to be able to climb at least 6 flights of stairs in full gear with their PPE on. They also wear their PPE and have to have their body temperature raised to simulate being in a heated environment of a fire. They also, while working alone and wearing the PPE, they have to search for and drag a victim to show that they are able to do that. Um, they also have to do advanced water-filled hose line, and be able to advance a hose line about 150 feet. They have to be able to climb a ladder with all their gear on, and as well as work from that height, crawl and walk in the dark. They have to have sudden bursts of unpredictable, prolonged periods of extreme physical exertion, operating fire apparatus in an emergency response mode. They have to be proficient and know what they're doing in an emergency response. They have to have critical, time sensitive, complex problem solving, during which they're also under extreme physical exertion in a stressful and hazardous environment. They also have to be able to communicate with each other while wearing PPE. They have to also function as an integral team member, especially if there's a team member that is suddenly incapacitated. And they have to work in shifts, and they're performing EMS tasks like CPR, and they're lifting and moving patients while wearing PPE. So that's just some of the um, physical exertion that they have to undergo. And so I wanted to share that with you, and that they have to, and some other, um, they have to be physically fit, of course. BMI plays a factor. Their measurements play a factor. They also have to have good fiscal responsibility. They have to be of good integrity. And so all of this fits into men that are deserving of respect. This is not to say that women can't be firefighters. However, it takes an extraordinary woman to be one. But my series is not about women. There's enough about women out there to celebrate women who can do extraordinary things. I'm trying to counter the narrative of toxic masculinity. So I wanted to just kind of touch upon what it takes for firefighters to become firefighters. And then the other thing is, I wanted to read a story about particularly forest firefighters. I wanted to share that with you as well. Um, and this is from a website called fforce.com. And it was The Black Summer, Australia's Season in Hell, as the article calls it. I'm just going to read a short blurb about what forest firefighters were up against in this particular scenario. In the 2019 to 2020 Australian brush fire season, it defied description. Firefighters faced fire behavior never before witnessed in recorded history. Pyrocumulonimbus storms created their own weather systems, fire tornadoes, hurling debris like missiles, and flame fronts moving faster than vehicles could escape. For 240 days, more than 74,000 firefighters, many of them were just volunteers with minimal equipment, battled the infernos across Australia. They faced walls of flame over 200 feet high. Think about that. Your average ceiling height can be anywhere from 7 to 9 feet. You know, these were walls of flame over 200 feet high. They were battling temperatures that melted their firefighting equipment, even on their trucks. And the conditions were so extreme that conventional firefighting tactics became useless. And so that is extraordinary and it was historical. And imagine the similar kind of conditions that firefighters face when it comes to wildfires out west. In fact, it was the winter after Ron and I moved down here to Northwest Georgia that it was the November, December months time frame, and it was super dry and it was super warm. And of course, thunderstorms came through and with lightning that lit the forest. We had forest fires down here, which hadn't happened in over a decade. And of course, it happened right after we moved down here. Yeah, fire tornadoes. And so there is thousands of acres that were ravaged here in Northwest Georgia. And it's not a routine thing um, for this area, I believe. But out west, imagine. I have a nephew who lives out in California, and he has just passed into his certification to become a firefighter out there. I don't know if it's different for forest firefighters versus normal, city or urban. I don't know. I didn't ask those questions, but he's anxious to be in a position where he can fulfill his duty. And he would certainly fit the bill, obviously, because he's passed. So I wanted to celebrate the respectful, the admirable masculine of the firefighter, the men that risk their lives to save life and home for people they don't know. So yes, thanks for joining me. This is what this painting is about, and I do have a plan to come up with another painting soon for this series. I'm not going to disclose it yet. But I also have another series going, which is the lesser known historical figures series, which I actually will be starting on once these two paintings are done. So I'll disclose that later as well. But let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to adjust my easel and my camera, I think, a little bit. Let's see what I got here. I got, I've got my palette cam, everybody. I thought I wasn't going to be able to do it tonight, but I got it. So, very good. Let's see if I can get the camera adjusted a little bit. Get this moved over so you can see it. Okay. It's kind of, I'm painting weird here, but I want you guys to be able to see what I'm doing. Let's see if I can move that camera a little bit. Does that? All right. All right. Looks like everything's going all right. I'm going to show you the source picture real quick. There you go. Ah, Crazy Bear making it in the chat. Hello, honey. He was taking care of our feral kitty cat named Dale. So you missed my story time, honey, talking about firefighters. You'll have to watch it on replay. But anyway, you can see my reference photo. You can see how I got that firefighter more rendered. And I'm going to go ahead and bring back my cams. There we go. All right. So, well, it's funny. I don't know if you can see this. I don't know if you'll be able to or not. Let me see if I can zip it in a little bit. All right. So, yeah, I'm going to zip it in a little bit. But you see in my Fireman, these areas of the banding on the uniform. I had asked my husband, Ron, last night to do a palette check on the source photo for the firefighter because I knew that what I was seeing, I was translating in lighter tones. And it would be, I don't have the photo that he modified for me with the color swatches in digital form because he took a dropper in his Adobe Photoshop and did a couple of droppers to measure the color. But these areas that are between the fluorescent red of the banding that are supposed to be white, were actually a very medium to dark gray. And I just kept looking at the source picture and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do that because it doesn't look that dark on the source picture. So I'm going to back it out here and I'm going to show the source picture again real fast so you can see. Let me see if I can make it bigger. But you can see, you can tell they're white banding, but because he's in such, you know, stark relief, that those bands are actually a medium to dark gray. It was a an exercise that was very fruitful in learning how colors play against each other and with tonal values. And so I would have painted this firefighter lighter in tones and brighter in color than what you see there. And so um, I I appreciate my husband for doing that color swatching for me because that really makes a difference. Okay, so let's see. What I need to do is I need to finalize areas of his hand. I need to probably work a little bit on the brightest brights. And I also need to work on the area here where he's standing. I got rocks there. You can tell that I worked a little bit darker, the distant hill, and I had more of these abstract motion in brush strokes. And I'm going to leave this essentially alone up here because I think that's working. And then I might work some more trees in the final here. So we'll see where we go with this. I've got a lot of glare from that light, so I'm going to have to move about. But I got to do smaller brushes. And we'll go from there. So how is everybody tonight? Thank you, Nancy. He's a little dark, but that's how he's supposed to be. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna pull up my reference photo so I can see what I'm doing here. But his hand, I gotta get it and this area is pretty nebulous. So, and I got a lot of glare on this. Yeah, it's hard for me to see with the glare of this light. I may have to readjust this easel. So what are you painting, Frosty? Is the missus painting as well? Nancy, are you painting or are you just watching? I got some fast drying medium I'm going to use here. What kind of medium am I using? I am using Galkid. And it's a fast drying medium. Trying to get some of these. Okay, I'm going to stand to do this so I can see what I'm doing. There's a bright spot here, bright spot there. Coastal lavender, princesses need it. Oh, okay. I'm uh I'm painting as you can see, but I haven't done any crocheting in a while. I haven't done a lot of crocheting in a while. That's what I do. I don't knit. I've never learned how to knit. My grandmother taught me how to crochet. I'm just making sure I get these brightest brights. These brightest brights. And I also want to get the rocks that he's standing on as well. But yeah, it was amazing how dark those color swatches actually were compared to what my eyes were seeing. And I was a little concerned about trying to paint to the realistic color swatches, but they worked out. They worked out. Wow. Yeah, I like that. You can see some of my underpainting is still showing through. I'm going to try to get some of this red to come forward a little bit more, maybe arbitrarily, making it a little brighter. There's over here. There's a bright spot. And here. Here. Bright spot. I saw that you completed your International Space Station painting. Congratulations on getting that completed. That's awesome. Let's see here. We got a darker red here on this cuff. You see me moving around, it's because it's got a glare. Got a glare going on. Not easy to see. The fireman is better than the photo. Frosty, that's very sweet of you to say. I gotta stop tinkering with it so much though, I think. And I gotta get that hand done. The hand. Cuff here. That's super dark. Now we got I definitely think I messed up this area here a little bit. Sometimes you just gotta use your finger to blend a little bit. All right, let me go down to the base of where he's standing because I don't have that developed. Let's see here. So yeah, I'm going to try to get down here. I got to be careful. I got the canvas on the hairy edge here so I can paint down here. So I got some blue, mostly gray, but on the blue side of things. So I'm going to mix some of these colors together. It's probably too much. Too much of any one color. I don't really need that much. I'm going to get a brownish, dark. Not probably not going to be a perfect black, but it's going to be super dark. Trying to see what that looks like. Got green to it. I think it needs to be more blue in tone, not tone, but chroma. So when I make some grays here, that'll make sense for the rocks that the rocky outcropping that he is standing on. Let's see if I can get this done. I don't want to dilly-dally anymore. No dilly-dallying. Let's see here. Hi, JJRSVL, or JJ for short, if that's okay with you. How you doing this evening? Is it nice where you are, Nancy, in terms of temperatures and weather? You missed my spot about firefighters, JJ. Talked about firefighters because they serve as a great example of what the masculine is all about. Thanks for dropping in and saying hey. I know you're a busy guy. You do a lot of work with Lady Hamilton. I'm sure she and the husband unit are enjoying a nice date night. Let's see when I add white to this, what does it look like? Looks like it needs a little bit more blue. Still needs more blue. Now, I know I've asked this before, but do you guys, when you're painting, Nancy, Frosty, when you're painting, do you mix on your palette like I do? Or do you mix on the canvas? Or do you do a little of both? It'll be all spots if I'm not careful. I gotta try to get a rocky outcropping going here. So, when it comes to what I'm thinking about doing next, um, I know what I'm going to do last for the Admirable Masculinity series. There is some light coming in between. I gotta capture that. I need a bigger brush. Let's try a bigger brush. Get some more swaths of this going. Oh, nice. You know, I got out this morning, but I've been inside all day. But we're in the low to mid 70s for most of this week here in Northwest Georgia. I need some of the medium there. This has got some grass. I'm going to put some grass there. So I need to capture some. You know, I don't, now that I think about it, I don't think I've actually done a rocky outcropping before. And I also got to get that boot yellow, or not yellow. I know it's supposed to be yellow, but it's a dirty olive green is really what it is. So I need to do that with some. With this front boot with the right color and the right reflectivity of the sun. And then this. There we go. Mostly on the palette. Your nephew's a firefighter? Yeah, ours just became one, although he hasn't found employment yet. He got certified, passed his test, Nancy, but yeah, 70s is not bad, by the way. I need to mix up some. Of course, I didn't have my husband do the palette check on some of these brightest brights on the rocks. So I'm going to mix up some more yellowish color here. This is dark. I know I'm going to add some white to it, but it's not as bright as, I got to remember that. that color swatching from the reference photo was really instructive, I have to say. Uh, very surprised. I don't think I want that. Trying to get a light value because I want to represent some of these rocks that are got some of that sunshine coming through, hazy sunshine coming through on those rocks. Have you ever second guessed yourself about a color that you're seeing from a reference photo and you go to put it on the canvas and it just doesn't look right? And it's because it's not up against uh, it's either up against the canvas white or something else, and it's skewing your ability to see. That's right there. Mhm. There. Did I get some of these brightest brights? I've never done a rocky outcropping, and boy, do I suddenly feel like I don't know what the heck I'm doing. You're you're doing a river scene, right, Nancy? Where there's a lot of rocks. Did you go like insane doing that? Because let me tell you, this this by itself is really gotta get that light coming in. Detailing is the most fun part. I kind of like the big brushes and the big brush strokes. When it comes to detailing, that's when I start to get lost in what I'm doing. Um, and that is par for the course, I guess. Now that's too bright. Let's go a little. Of course you would agree, honey. You like details too. I'm trying to I'm trying to do details. But man, these rocks are gonna get me. I'm pretty sure. They're gonna be the death of me here. That's not gonna work. Yeah, this is this is not how I envision this going. I actually got more space down here than my reference photo provides. And I'm working with glare again because I sat down. I'm gonna have to. It's better when I stand up, though, I have to say. because when I stand up, I can see better. To say, this part is definitely difficult. And there's a good night, Irene. It doesn't look right to me, but it's okay. I'll get there. I'll get there. Ah, did you already post it, Nancy? Did you post that painting already, the finished version? Or are you waiting to reveal that later? Oh, that red was coming through. And I didn't really want the red to come through. It's not red I'm seeing. There we go. Yeah, I'm kind of wandering again. I think I'm wandering because those rocks give me heartburn. Those rocks give me heartburn. I think maybe I should just not worry about the shapes really and just kind of do those darks, some, some brights. Let's see here. You know what? Maybe that's what I'm doing wrong. Is maybe the way I'm trying to make these shapes or trying to do these shapes is I'm twist this filbert to kind of give some roundedness to these rocks. Maybe that's what I need to do. And then some straights and some others. Maybe this is where I'm going to put my signature. That'll save me. What do you say, everybody? Should I put my signature down here? They say you got to plan for your signature, and I've been horrible at that, I have to say. Yeah, I think. Oop, there I go. Ah, you see that? Watch it, Stephanie. Yeah, so Here, I'm gonna do some grass. Yep, I'm gonna do the signature down there. I'm gonna leave space for a signature. That's gonna be my saving grace. Signature right here. Let's see here. I've got the reference photo up close up on my screen. I'm not seeing, I'm not watching my live stream software. I'm looking at the reference photo on the full screen on my computer, and I've got it zoomed up, and I'm just realizing that in the back are bare tree, um, very thin trees, no foliage on them. Obviously, some sort of damage was done to them and whatever. So I'm going to see about trying to represent some of that here. They're very, they're very subtle. It might not even come across. And this, I got to do that too. I never noticed these behind him. And then what I'm going to do is I think I am going to touch some of these rocks with some brighter brights, even though it's probably not accurate to the actual palette check. Let's see here. What can I do? There we go. Let's see about that. His shoe, he's got a very bright spot there. Just a touch. Very bright, like the brightest part of his boots getting the glint of the sun. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna go right there. There it is. What do you think of that? That bright spot right there. What do you think? See about getting, I get some of my medium going here. That actually does something for it. Gotta this blue against him doesn't do anything for this. Hand in the weeds here. I think why I'm messed up over here is because I had the white of the canvas essentially. And there is no white of the canvas on that part of the photograph. Let's see here. I'm going to zoom in so you can see some of this. But I think the shoes kind of register better, don't you think? No, the firefighter is looking out over what looks like still viable uh, forest, and it looks like from the reference that the fire is off in the distance behind. So he's probably surveying how much land they still have to save, is what my guess is. Get some green grass in the front there. Yeah, no, this is I'm pretty sure. Let me open up the source picture again for you. Hold on. So you can kind of see it's an abstraction. All that paint is abstract, but those look more like viable trees um, than what's behind him. So he's probably surveying what he has to save next. It would be my guess. Nancy. I'm going to step away from the glare on this because it is really bad for me, and come around to see it. It actually, I'm standing behind my circle light, looking through the circle of my circle light at the canvas, and that's much better to me. Those rocks don't look too bad when I look at it from a distance. Sometimes you have to step back and step away. All right. Well, that was helpful to do. I feel a little better. I feel a little better. See about getting that brightest bright. Just a touch. Just a touch. Let's see here. I can't seem to get this dark enough. I don't know why. I might have to pull out my black. I don't usually use black unless I really need to get something dark. And I'm kind of up against that. Yeah, see, that's not. All right. All right, everybody, it's official. I'm pulling out the black. Let's see if I can find it. Probably down buried in the bottom. I can use lamp black. I'll put a little dab of Dewey about chair. I don't need a lot, just a little to kind of help reinforce these darkest colors. I mean, these darkest shadows rather, not colors. Let's see if I can. Where his legs split in the back. That's how darkest dark. This is the darkest dark. This is the darkest dark. And this. And then his fingers curl. What do you think? That's not too too startling, right? I'm just trying to touch some of these darkest areas. And again, there's such a glare here. That's all I see. So it might not be the best idea for me to touch on this so much. Oh, sorry about that. I thought I had the reference photo blown up for you, but I guess I did not. Let's see if I can do that. Let's see here. I'm gonna blow it up a little bit so you can see his feet to see what I was seeing there. Let's blow these right up. So there's his feet. That's what I was working on. So yeah, a little difficult to see what I'm doing. But I think those boots are definitely coming forward now. And then maybe if I do a little touch up of black in some of these darker spots. What do you think? I still need to get some grass over here. And it's just really more of a smudge of paint from the looks of it when you see that reference shot. That is probably my medium green. Medium green here. And then I'll touch it with some highlights. And I see well, you don't see it because I got this source picture up, but that's the most difficult part right there, I think. But that's a good spot for a signature. It'll save me from myself. Not bad though, I would say. Not bad. I'm stepping in front only because I can't see real quick and just. But really, this is almost done in my book. I really just gotta do those final detailed touches. And like I said, I don't get down to nitty gritty details like you, Nancy. Like I said, you've got a special kind. Both you and Frosty have a special kind of patience that apparently I lack. 'Cause, let me tell you, I I would never be able to do those paintings that you guys do because I don't have the patience. Oh, I really don't have the patience like you guys do. You guys are incredible. Incredible. Me, I get lucky, I think. I think I'm going to have to let this hand dry and make sure I come back to it. All right, and I think I'm going to do some darker, use some of this black to bring some of these bare trees forward a little bit. Let me see if I can. I'm going to pull this in front. Let me go full camcorder. Let's see if we can see this better. There. Oh, I guess I need to go this way. Just figured I'd let you guys see it without too much light and glare so you can see what it's looking like. Plus, I can see what it's looking like. So yeah, I really like this right here. I think that's very successful because it's got the billowing look of smoke and danger. And then he's standing here, and I may come back and do just some touches of highlights on the rocks and on a few of the grasses to kind of bring that forward. But the rest of this is abstraction. Um, let's see here. See if I can show the top corner of the painting. Oh, I know what I can do. Let's see if I can bring it back a little bit. There we go. There we go. So what do you think about that? I think the rocks aren't bad, but I think I'm still going to touch them up when they're drier. Maybe, maybe bring in a little bit more detail on some of these trees. Do you guys think there's enough going on here? Or if I do anything more in the upper right-hand corner, do you think it would become a distraction? Because this is obviously the focus. And then people are going to look over and say, what's going on over here? Is this what needs to be saved, or is this in danger? There's the distant landscape, again, and this is an abstract background, abstract realism. So it's got things you can identify with, but obviously, these brush strokes of white in these areas are just the abstraction of the painting. So I just was wondering what you guys think. Trying to see if you can look at paint on them. What do you think? I'm looking at it in the camera just to see, but that's what it's looking like. I don't really want to mess with this. I kind of like this, but I'm wondering if maybe something's missing, or maybe I do an artificial darkening, even though it's really in the distance. Distance means lighter, but again, rules are made to be broken when you're dealing with abstract constructs in your painting, right? So yeah, now you see this glare that you're seeing now? That's what I've been painting against for most of the live stream. So which is really difficult to do, but yeah. So there we go. What do you think? Okay, well, I'll wait for you to show me, honey, what you think about that upper right-hand corner. Yeah, Frosty is a master of trees and grass. I, I totally agree. He's the master in the group for sure. And maybe I need to let this dry and see if there's any touch-ups needed. And then obviously this here too, because this is also very wet. And so every time I try to do something, it blends right on the canvas, which if I intended it to, great. But if I don't, then it's not working out. So, but I think he's working. I do think he's working. Let me see if I can take, yeah, my light came back on. Let's see here. So I'm going to do my mobile. Okay, so you guys can see that. Oop, I gotta go down, I guess. There's my signature corner. I'm going to back up a little bit because this is a camera phone. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here so you can see what the trees are doing. Again, the trees have just enough that you can relate and understand them as trees. And then you got the abstraction of these brush strokes and things like that. And this looks like a forest that may have been ravaged by fire not too far in the distant past. And then this is that upper corner. A lot of abstract brush strokes and Q-tip strokes. I used Q-tips in the background when I was laying in the background, the first layer. So, but yeah. I gotta go this way. But yeah, he's definitely successful. And I'm just thinking maybe something slight, nothing too outrageous, might have to be done in that upper corner, or maybe in the middle here, maybe in the middle. I don't know. That kind of connects up here. I don't know. So I'm taking ideas, and that might be something I have to finish later. But I would say, in effect, short of some tweaks, and waiting for the paint to dry to do some of those tweaks, this thing, I think, is done in essence. Like I said, some minor tweaks and a signature line, And I think I'm good. What do you guys think? I'm going to put this back up here. There we go. So yeah, and so now I guess my next question would be, what kind of title should this have? Um, I could call it The Firefighter. I know that someone, I forget their nickname on True Social, but they suggested the Sentinel. And I thought, well, that's a good one, especially considering his stance here. Um, but I'm not sold on any one thing, so huh. It would have to be in the distance. I'll have to look up some reference photos of firefighting um, airplanes and see. Are you saying like maybe we're almost silhouetted with the light instead of dark because of the distance? Plane traveling at or near 45-degree angle towards the upper left. So this way. Okay. So maybe having already descended, dumping, you know, dumping its water this way. That would indicate that there's a fire this way, though. And I'm thinking that that's not necessarily the case, although this color here could be an indicator that maybe there's another fire in the distance, and maybe that's why there would be a plane there. Not sure. I'll look at your sketch later. Okay. A little darker contrast about where the Y-shaped scratch is. Okay, so here, there's a Y. Okay. All right. Well, maybe I'll do a little sketching and just kind of see in a sketch with an oil pastel before I put that in there. But yeah, he turned out pretty good. And like I said, if Ron hadn't done that palette check for me, I probably would be ending up repainting him several times, because I would have started off with brighter, lighter colors, especially in these areas where the banding is on the uniform. And I don't think um, it would have looked right until I painted it and got it to these colors. So I think that was a good exercise. So I'm grateful that my husband is good at Adobe Photoshop and you can do those little dropper things to check the palette for me. But yeah, so this is my painting. I'm gonna let the fireman dry a little bit more in the rocks, and then I'll do some tweaks, and then I'm gonna consider the plain idea, or I may do the more contrast in the corner somehow. Uh, but that, like I said, minor tweaks here and there, and a signature, and this baby is essentially done. So I like that. And so let me explain what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to set this aside. I obviously also have to do the edges of the canvas. But I'm going to bring over my dancer painting so you can see what I'll be working on next week. I haven't forgotten my dancer painting. I don't want, if I got paint on my fingers, last thing I want to do is put the wrong colors of paint and fingerprints on this thing. But Remember this beauty? Thank you, Nancy. Yeah, The Firefighter is a good title. It's just predictable, not so creative, but it's not the title is maybe it doesn't need to be overthought. Yeah, I'm just checking the YouTube here. No one in the YouTube chat. That's okay. Eventually there probably will be. This isn't looking as bad as it did before. I haven't touched this since you last saw me work on it. But and that's why it's dry mostly. Um, and so this is what I need to fix, and then maybe some touches. Oh, I do need to do some of this detail work in the bodices over here and in her bodice as well. And then yeah, so this won't take long next week, I don't think, unless I tinker with it too much, which I have been known to do. Um, so what am I calling the dancer painting? That's a great, I have been calling it Dancers by the Sea, which of course is another obvious, straightforward, uncreative title. And there's Jackpot making an audible, but that's okay. Jackpot's allowed. But yeah, plug this back in here. But yeah, I just gotta fix the bodices, I think. Uh, just touch up on the feet. They're better than they were, but I don't think I'm there. And of course, this corner needs to be detailed. So the bodices, the feet, in this corner, and then I've got it. Um, so yeah, I've got to come up with a name for this one, unless Dancers by the Sea works. Again, just like when Ron and I we were going to go pick up Jackpot from the Humane Society. We both thought, well, Jack is just too obvious. It's too, on the nose because he was a Jack Russell. So we were thinking some other names for him. But when we got there and picked him up, Jack just fit. And so we call him Jack the Jackpot Stevenson in full name. Um, but yeah, so this is this is almost done, and this is going to be one of my favorites. I really identify with dancing. If you remember last week, I talked about how I grew up being in ballet, tap, jazz. I did baton and things of that nature. And I talked about how Ron and I met. Well, we didn't meet, but we crossed paths unknowingly at the 1982 World's Fair because I was performing in the parades there in Knoxville, Tennessee at that event as part of my dance troupe. But yeah, this is going to get done. And the bodices, and then I got to come up with a name for this one. And so I've been working on trying to organize to round out the live stream tonight because I got about 10 minutes left if I go to the full hour and a half. Um, I am creating a blog on my website, which is midlifeartist.com. So I used to be a blogger before I came out as anything. I used to do a lot of blogging. In fact, that's how Ron and I met. On the old Yahoo 360 blogging site is where we first connected. So I was a prolific writer. I talked a lot about what I was going through at that time. I was a young mom of adolescence, and I was going through a horrible divorce, so it was having horrible effect on my kids at that time. And so I had a lot of therapy in my blog back then. Um, so Ron met me when I was broken, and he was part of my healing. Um, but uh, but yeah, so I've got a blog set up. I put my first blog post on my website, and you can access that through the blog label at the top of my website. So I'll start doing blog entries and posting those as well. I've I've gotten on Instagram for the longest time. I resisted that effort, but at the same time, I can't keep doing the same kind of process that's not really helping me grow my audience, my presence and all that stuff. Um, so I need to make sure that I kind of expand into these places. It's a lot of work, but I'm doing that. And so I've got a list going for each series. And the next painting, I'm starting to look at reference photos that I can kind of compositionally connect for me in a unified resource picture. But I'm going to represent Nancy Wake. And if you don't know who she is, look her up. Nancy Wake, Wake. I'm not going to say anything about that online in my online postings. I'm only bringing it to this live stream. So you guys are getting a preview of the next idea that's going to be put to canvas. And I'm going to be doing canvases as a mainstay because I need to build up my body of work so I can meet my goal for myself into 2026 to doing art-centric festivals. And I need to be able to fill up those temp walls like I talked about. So yeah, so um, this is going to get done next week. I'm going to touch up my Fireman painting between now and next week when it's a little more dry with those other little tweaks and sign it in the lower left-hand corner and post it when it's done. So yeah. So I want to thank everybody for showing up, Nancy, Frosty, JJ, and the Mrs. Frosty in the background, I'm sure. Um, and I look forward to next week nailing this thing, getting this one done. So yeah, I think I can pull it off. So this is on next week's docket. It might be a shorter live stream because I might get more done. And this doesn't fit into any series. I just liked this image. And so yeah, fun. This one's been fun. A little frustrating, but mostly fun. So everybody, thank you. Like, subscribe, share. I'm at 72 followers on Rumble between my watercolor artiste account and my midlife artist channel. So they count the each one in sum. So I'm at 72 followers, and they say that once you get to 100 followers, you can be part of their special program. I forget what they call it, um, where I might be able to start getting monetized. So if you can help spread the word and encourage people to subscribe to my Rumble channel, I would be grateful because I'd like to get to 100. And we'll just go with that. So thanks again, everybody, for joining me on a Wednesday night. Enjoy this fair weather week if you've got fair weather. Stay warm if you don't. And I'll see you next week, everybody. And have a good